When I woke up, I didn't feel pain. I felt emptiness. Not the kind that comes from trauma or blood loss, but the kind that wraps itself around you when something is deeply, fundamentally wrong. There was no voice calling my name, no trembling hand in mine, no breathless relief whispering, "Thank God you're alive." Just the cold hum of hospital machines and the sharp smell of antiseptic. I slowly turned my head, wincing. My neck felt like it had been reassembled by someone without a license. And then I saw her, Sophie, my wife. She was sitting at the far end of the bed, calm, quiet, staring at her phone. Her hair was neat, her nails were done. No signs of panic, stress, or even tears. Just another day. 3 years ago, I thought I was the luckiest man alive to have married her. Now, lying there, half paralyzed and stitched together, I wasn't so sure. She looked up, briefly met my gaze, just for a second, then stood. "I'll get the doctor," she said. That was it. Not "Ethan, oh my God, you're okay." Not "I was so scared I'd lose you." Just, "I'll get the doctor." Something clicked in my chest. Not a heartbeat, not relief, something darker. She wasn't surprised I was alive. She was prepared. The accident happened 3 days ago. A drunk driver ran a red light. My car was totaled. I was unconscious for 48 hours. Sophie signed off on emergency surgery. No one else came, no parents, no siblings, just her. The doctor asked me a few basic questions. I answered slowly, deliberately. I let my eyes wander. I let him assume I was confused. Maybe I was, but not in the way they thought. That's when the idea struck. What if I pretended not to remember? Not just the accident, everything. Let her believe I was empty. Let her relax. Let her tell me who she really was when she thought I wasn't me anymore. That night, I lay in bed with my eyes closed, faking sleep, my breathing slow. I heard her stand up. Her footsteps crept to the door. She cracked it open, and I heard her whisper, "He doesn't remember anything. We're in the clear now." My eyes opened, just slightly, enough to see her silhouette disappear into the hallway. And just like that, I knew. She didn't want me dead. She wanted me gone. Without a fight, without resistance. She thought the man I was had vanished. She was wrong. If she wanted to erase me from her life, I'd let her think she succeeded. For now. The next morning, she brought me breakfast. Soft oatmeal, 1 slice of toast, and a glass of orange juice. Pulp-free, just how I liked it. But she didn't ask. She didn't have to. That was the first red flag. She knew my preferences. Of course she did. But the way she anticipated them, without hesitation, without checking if I remembered them, she wasn't testing what I forgot. She was counting on me forgetting. "Did you sleep okay?" she asked. I nodded. Blank stare. Slightly dazed, letting her fill the silence. She smiled gently. "You don't have to force yourself to remember anything. Just focus on healing." That line again. Don't remember. Don't ask. Just heal. Translation. Stay dumb. Stay quiet. Let me work. Later that day, I asked her what she did for a living. I knew the answer, obviously. Sophie hadn't worked in almost a year. Not since she took a break to recenter her energy. She was living off my company shares and called herself a creative advisor. But she hesitated. Just a moment too long. "I'm still consulting," she said finally. "Marketing strategy from home." Lie number 1. When she stepped out for a phone call, I got up. very slowly, very carefully. The doctors thought I needed a walker. What I really needed was a reason to stand, and now I had one. I moved through the house like a ghost. Familiar walls, familiar smells, but something was off. Photos were missing from the shelves, awards and certificates gone. Our wedding portrait, not even in the bedroom. It wasn't just that she was hiding things. She was scrubbing me out. I opened my office door. Locked. Interesting. I checked the smart home panel. Access code changed. Security settings reset. My name had been removed from the admin list. Sophie had taken over the system. Step by step, she wasn't just living without me. She was preparing for a life after me. And I wasn't supposed to know that. Fine. If she wanted to play caretaker, I'd play patient. If she wanted to lie, I'd pretend to believe. That evening, I mentioned I was feeling dizzy, just to see what she'd do. "Oh no," she said, putting her hand to my forehead. "You're warm. Let me grab something." She left the room, and I heard her voice in the hallway, low, urgent. "No, he hasn't asked about the company. He's not suspicious. He still thinks I'm his wife." Still thinks. That phrase hit harder than any concussion. That night, I opened a private browser window on my old tablet. Thank God, I'd hard-coded a backup access route to my cloud server. One message blinked at the top of the screen, from Daniel, my former assistant. Subject, urgent, change of ownership. I opened it. A list of digital asset transfers appeared. Website domains, brand, licensing, API keys, all changed, all recently, all signed by Sophie. The woman sleeping beside me didn't just want me gone. She wanted to be me. For the next 2 days, I kept the act alive. Forgetful, slow, staring out windows, asking the same questions twice. She ate it up. She brought me books on brain trauma, gave me guided meditation links, left out lavender essential oils, the kind of care you give someone when you're so sure they won't fight back. I let her believe it, but I also kept track of her routines, her calls, and her sudden late-night errands. On the 3rd night, she changed clothes and told me she was meeting a friend for yoga. At 9:40 p.m., I waited 10 minutes after she left. Then I stood up, laced my sneakers, and grabbed my car keys from the backup drawer under the bookshelf. She'd forgotten I'm left-handed. That's where I hide everything. I followed her from a safe distance. She didn't go to a gym or a yoga studio or anywhere even remotely public. She drove 30 minutes south of the city to an industrial district and stopped outside a self-storage facility. Redmond secure units. No cameras, no guards, just keypad access. She punched in a code like she'd done it 1,000 times. The gate opened. Unit number 147. She pulled open the metal roll-up door and stepped inside. I parked a block away and walked in the shadows. The unit light flickered, just enough for me to see her silhouette. She wasn't alone. A man walked up behind her and hugged her from behind. Tall, confident, familiar posture. Then I saw his face, when the flickering light caught his profile. Dr. Marcus Levin, my neurologist. The man who'd been overseeing my recovery since day one. The man I trusted. They kissed. Not quick, not careful. It wasn't new, it was practiced. I stood there for 5 full minutes, my fists clenched, so tight I couldn't feel my fingers. This wasn't about an affair. This was about a plan. How far back did this go? How long had she been using Marcus? Was he the one feeding her the perfect script? The right words to say, the dosage to keep me foggy, the version of me they wanted me to become. She pulled out a box from the back of the unit, a black metal case, thick, labeled Ethan Tran, legal, medical, trust files. My files. Why were they here? She flipped it open and began sifting through the documents, laughing at something he whispered. I didn't need to hear it. I'd heard enough. I turned and walked back to the car, heart pounding, adrenaline laced with fury. But my face, still calm, because I knew something she didn't. 2 years ago, I'd added an unregistered tracking chip inside that metal file case for security, encrypted, untraceable. She just gave me her location. Now, I just had to let her bury herself with it. They thought they were erasing me. What they didn't realize is that I'd already backed myself up. The next morning, she made blueberry pancakes. She hadn't made pancakes since our honeymoon. I thought you might like something sweet, she said. Smile flawless, nails freshly manicured, eyes that held not an ounce of guilt. I chewed slowly, nodded, pretended not to notice the pen sticking out from the folder beside her elbow. A few bites later, she slid it across the table. Babe, I talked to your lawyer about managing your assets, just until you're back on your feet. I looked at the document. Power of attorney. The form was dressed up as temporary, limited scope. A few pages in, it was anything but. She'd slipped in full control over finances, business decisions, digital accounts, even my healthcare directives. She was asking me to sign away my life. I picked up the pen with my left hand, deliberately messy, slightly shaky. The signature looked hesitant, imperfect. I handed it back. She smiled wide. Thank you. This makes everything easier. I smiled back. Of course, I trust you. The second she left for her Pilates session, I stood up, opened the folder, and pulled out the signature page. That wasn't the copy I'd actually signed, because I never touched her copy. I had swapped it with a decoy I printed earlier that morning. I scanned the fake she left behind, then uploaded the image to my secure legal backup folder under the tag Fraud Attempt A1. It took 5 minutes to send the real document, the original, unaltered POA, to Daniel, my ex-assistant. Compare this version to my last signature record. Send it to Nick at Covington & Sloan. No contact with me. Silent action only, Daniel replied with a simple emoji. That afternoon, I installed a new piece of software on my tablet. Something custom-built, never released to the public. Neuropulse, a silent memory sync tool I designed for dementia patients, but reconfigured now for surveillance. I activated it. It connected to every device in the house, searched for speech patterns, keywords, behavioral cues. I didn't just want to know what Sophie was doing. I wanted to know what she'd already done. Late that night, while she slept peacefully beside me, I sat in my home office with a dim desk light and an open archive. The software pinged. An old audio file popped up, labeled in her voice memo app as Voice Journal, April 17. I played it. Marcus says the dosage is fine. If I keep it low and steady, he won't even notice the fog. Just a few weeks more. Then the documents are ready. A pause. Then she added, after that, it's just the insurance, the fall, the body. My blood froze. She wasn't just erasing me, she was replacing me with an exit plan. She didn't know I heard that recording, but in 48 hours, she'll wish I hadn't forgotten anything. For the next 2 days, I played the role to perfection. Confused, docile, just grateful to have someone like her helping me. She loved it. She brought home smoothie kits, ordered matching yoga mats, played podcasts about neuroplasticity while humming around the house like some kind of Pinterest nurse. It was all for show, not for me, but for control. She needed me helpless, emotionally and legally, and I gave her exactly what she wanted, the illusion of power. Every night, I combed through more data. The Neuropulse software unearthed everything. Deleted voice memos, encrypted messages between her and Marcus, calendar syncs I'd never approved. She had tried to sell one of my companies 2 weeks after my accident. Had Marcus not cautioned her to wait for legal clarity, the deal might have gone through. "Give it 2 more weeks," he texted. "Once the new power of attorney clears, we're good to liquidate." Meanwhile, I prepared. I sent a courier to deliver a sealed envelope to my lawyer, Nick. No return address. Inside, a fresh USB drive, the fake POA, and a one-line note. "Hold this. Drop it if I go silent." I changed the lock on a secondary server I hadn't accessed in over a year. Moved key financial and personal documents into cold storage. Then waited. One afternoon, Sophie walked in with her laptop, pretending to check emails beside me on the couch. "So, I've been helping organize some of your inbox," she said casually. "It's such a mess, babe." I nodded. "Also, do you remember that intern, Jessica, from your Miami trip last year? You, seemed close." Ah, there it was, the seed, planting doubt, gaslighting the man she thought couldn't remember. "Jessica?" I blinked. "I don't remember anything about her." She smiled. "Exactly. That night, I opened our shared photo archive. The cloud had been scrubbed clean. Our wedding album, gone. Honeymoon videos, gone. Birthday dinners, family holidays, speaking engagements, all deleted. She hadn't just deleted our history. She was replacing it with nothing, erasing me from every narrative thread. Except for one thing. There was a folder she missed, a glitch folder from my old backup system, hidden under a false extension. Inside, I found the original video of our engagement. It was in Cannon Beach, the Cliff House. She looked up at me and said, "No matter what happens, I'll always be proud to be your wife." I stared at that moment, paused it, rewound, watched again. Then I whispered, "Let's find out if you still mean that." I asked her to take me back to the Cliff House, the place where she promised to never lie. She said yes, without hesitation. "I think it's time you got some real rest," Sophie said, stirring her tea. We were in the kitchen, late evening. Her tone was soft, too soft. Not just physical rest, mental clarity, nature maybe, away from all this noise. I didn't respond right away. Then I looked up, met her eyes, and said, "Let's go to the Cliff House." She blinked. That pause, one fraction of a second too long. But then she smiled. "Of course, that's perfect." The Cliff House was ours, or used to be. A glass-walled cabin just off Cannon Beach, Oregon, a place I bought before we married. It was where I proposed, where we honeymooned, where we once planned to raise kids. Now, it felt like the perfect place to bury something. We drove up the next morning. No staff, no cell service, no cameras, exactly how she wanted it. Inside, everything was clean. Too clean. Fridge fully stocked, bedding replaced, floor mopped. She'd been here before, recently. That night, she made pasta, lit candles, poured wine. We sat by the fireplace like newlyweds, and I let her believe the illusion. "I used to love this place," she said. It feels like we were different people back then. I stared into the flames, then said, maybe we still are. At 2:13 a.m., I woke up, not because of a noise, but because of the silence. Sophie's side of the bed was empty, the blanket still warm. I got up quietly, feet bare on the wood floor, and moved toward the glass balcony overlooking the cliff. There she was, standing alone, wearing my sweatshirt. She didn't hear me behind her. She was looking down at the ocean, waves crashing far below, and in her hand was my wheelchair, the one I no longer needed, the one I brought for show, the one she thought I still relied on. She didn't hesitate. She gripped the handle with both hands and pushed. The wheelchair tipped, rolled, then disappeared off the edge, into the sea. She stood there, breathing hard, then turned around. Our eyes met. She froze. For a second, neither of us moved. Then I stepped forward, 1 foot, 2, steady, controlled. I can walk, I said calmly. She stared at me, not in fear, but in disbelief, then fury. You were never supposed to stand again, she whispered. I smiled. Neither were you. She didn't scream when she saw me standing. She didn't cry, didn't deny it. She just froze, eyes wide, mind calculating. Then, just like that, she smiled. You've been lying to me, she said calmly. I didn't answer. I let her sit in that silence. Because the truth is, yes, I'd lied, but only to catch hers. The next morning, I left before sunrise. Packed nothing. Took the hiking trail through the woods, just like I planned. By noon, I was missing. By sunset, I was presumed dead. I watched the story unfold from a safe house across the state, using my private surveillance network. No media coverage, no police report, just a quiet post by Sophie. It's with deep sadness that I share. Ethan is gone. He left this world the same way he lived, in his own mind. Touching. And yet, no mention of calling the Coast Guard, no candlelight vigil, no public grief, just curated sadness for those who didn't know better. 2 days later, Dr. Marcus Levin showed up at the Cliff House. I watched through drone footage. They opened wine, sat on the same couch, laughed, touched, toasted. Sophie wore black, but the kind of black you wear to an awards dinner, not a funeral. She leaned in and whispered something in his ear. He kissed her. She didn't wait long. The very next morning, a legal notice was sent to my company's board. Request for emergency succession and asset transfer filed under her name as my widow and sole legal proxy. She included a power of attorney document, the one she thought I'd signed, the one I'd already flagged as fraudulent. From my end, everything was in motion. Nick, my lawyer, had the backup plan. Daniel was already feeding the board anonymous leaks. Marcus's medical license had been placed under review following a quiet ethics complaint, filed through a third party. All I had to do was wait. Until Sophie got a delivery, a simple wooden box, unmarked, no return address. Inside, a phone, powered on. One video queued up, footage of her, standing on the Cliff House balcony, pushing the wheelchair into the sea. The phone began to ring. She answered it, slowly, hand trembling. I spoke only 3 words. You missed me. She dropped the phone, not because she was scared, but because she finally understood. The ghost she thought she buried was wide awake. The day after she received the box, Sophie filed to open the will. The attorney she hired, one of my former legal rivals, walked into the office with her and Marcus in tow. They wore black again, not grieving, branding the perfect widow, the concerned family physician. They told the board it was time for succession, time to move forward in Ethan's honor, time to transfer the company into capable, surviving hands. They submitted the power of attorney I'd signed. The board requested my last will and testament. What they got was a USB drive. It began with a video. I appeared on screen, clean-shaven, calm, alive. If you're watching this, it means Sophie Carter and Marcus Levin are attempting to assume control of my personal and corporate estate using a document I never legally approved. This is my final will and recorded testimony, filed with my legal counsel, Nick Abramson, and time-stamped 6 weeks before my accident. To Sophie Carter, my legal spouse, I leave one thing: the truth. The room fell into dead silence. Then came the second video, captured from the Cliff House drone camera. Sophie, at the balcony, pushing the wheelchair off the cliff. No hesitation. Then, the voice memo recovered from her private phone. After that, it's just the insurance, the fall, the body. Her voice, her plan, no edits, no deniability. Dr. Marcus Levin stood up mid-meeting. This is manipulated. It's clearly... Dr. Levin, the board chair interrupted, your license is currently under ethics review. You should consider remaining silent. Sophie didn't speak. Not a word. Not when she was escorted out. Not when her name was officially removed from the succession plan. Not even when the board voted to freeze her access to all assets pending investigation. 30 minutes later, Nick delivered the final blow. Oh, and just for the record, he said, sliding a document across the table to Sophie, this is the revocation of your power of attorney, filed and notarized weeks before you tried to use it. You're not the executor. You're the subject of investigation. Outside, cameras waited. Not mine, hers. She'd invited the press, hoping to stage her takeover. Instead, they caught her walking out in silence, face pale, eyes blank, Marcus storming behind her like a fallen CEO. I watched it from a cafe in Vancouver. No disguise, no regret, just one word in my mind: check. They thought I was playing defense. I never was. I was rewriting the ending, one clause at a time. 3 days after the will exploded in her face, Sophie went dark. No more statements, no social media, no Marcus. She moved back into our penthouse alone, where the silence echoed louder than ever. But I wasn't done. Not yet. That Monday, a delivery arrived at her door. Hand-wrapped, no return label, just a wooden box, the exact kind I used to store my legacy watches. Inside, a black phone, already powered on. One folder on the screen, open me. No message, no name, just an instinct she couldn't ignore. She opened it. The screen lit up with a video, footage she hadn't seen before. It was her, standing over me in the hospital room. The moment she whispered, "He doesn't remember anything. We're in the clear now." Then, another file. A private conversation between her and Marcus, extracted from a synced smartwatch she thought she'd wiped. He signs it. We wait 2 weeks. The money transfers. And if he doesn't, then we make sure he doesn't remember anything, permanently. There was also a PDF, a full transcript of her call with the insurance agent, the one where she subtly asked about accidental death benefits while I was still in surgery. It wasn't illegal, but it was enough for every board member, every investor, every family member who once trusted her. But the final item wasn't digital. It was a photograph. Old, faded. From the first night, I brought Sophie to the Cliff House. Long before the money, the fame, the company. She was barefoot, wrapped in my jacket, smiling. On the back, I'd written just 6 words. This is who you used to be. I watched her through the smart home camera I'd quietly reactivated. She sank to the floor, phone in her lap, silent, still. No tears, not yet. Just realization of what she had lost, of who she had become, and of the one thing she hadn't destroyed: me. And you don't need to destroy someone to win. You just have to make them see what they've done and live with it. 3 weeks passed. No legal charges, no arrests. I didn't want Sophie in jail. Jail would have given her a script, a sentence, an ending. I wanted her in limbo. Marcus resigned from his hospital. His license is under ongoing review. No clinic in the state will touch him. He texted her once. She didn't reply. Her accounts are frozen. Her name removed from every board and contract. She's a legal ghost in a world she once helped me build. I flew back to Seattle 2 days ago, not to reclaim the penthouse, not to be seen. I walked past the cafe where we met, sat on the same bench we once talked about baby names, and then I went to see her. She opened the door slower than I expected. Eyes puffy, hair pulled back, no makeup, no smile, no lies left. She didn't ask how I was alive. She didn't ask why I came. She just stepped aside. We didn't speak for a while. She handed me a letter, handwritten. "I don't deserve forgiveness," she wrote, "but I want you to know I did love you, before everything." I folded it, tucked it into my jacket. Then I handed her something in return, a pen, and the divorce agreement, already signed, no demands, no clauses, no retaliation. She looked up at me. "Why are you being kind?" I stared at her. "I'm not." I turned to leave. Before I stepped out, I paused. "I'm starting over," I said. She nodded. "Without me?" "No," I replied. "Without what you turned me into." Outside, the sun was rising over the city we once ruled together. She stayed in the doorway, frozen, still watching. I didn't look back. Some people destroy you with a gun. Others do it with a smile. But the worst ones, they make you destroy yourself and thank them for it.